Okay, let's go on to another civilization. And again, what we're doing here in this particular set of lectures is we're looking at some different historical societies and some historical events and we're looking at how they express sexuality. So the ancient Greeks, a lot of us are taught a lot of the philosophy like Socrates and Aristotle and Plato and Hippocrates, and so I thought that I would share with you what we know about their sexuality. Is they believed that everyone was bisexual, which is interesting concept, right? Even some of the most major sexuality researchers like Havelock Ellis, Magnus Hirschfeld, they believed that everyone is bisexual and has the ability to be with someone else. And so let me just run something past you. So I believe that each and every one of us is capable of responding to the at either sex. So for example, if you had a blindfold on and someone was touching you and pleasing you, and you did not know which gender they were, you would absolutely be able to sexually respond. Now, I know that we all have preferences, but this is a big it's something to think about, like why do you have that preference, and if you opened your mind, might you be able to respond to the opposite? That's that whole nature versus nurture question. We know that sexual orientation is not a choice, but then again, for a lot of us, maybe we could open ourselves up to different things. This is what I don't want to offend anyone. I'm just saying this is what kind of the ancient Greeks believed, is they believed that everyone is bisexual. And so actually, male homosexuality was seen as a higher form of love than actually heterosexual relationships. So what you're seeing here is, remember how I told you, like, it's interesting to me that in the Christian religion, the God is not sexual. However, when you look at most other religions, the gods are extremely sexual. So this is actually a photo of different gods that are having sex, a satyr and a nymph, and these are gods that can kind of turn into these different creatures, or they are mystical creatures having sex. And I think a lot of you know, like the Zeus and all of that kind of stuff, that they were extremely sexual and they had human emotions like jealousy and revenge and so on and so forth. Okay, so one thing that was interesting is that the ancient Greeks believed in bisexuality. Another thing is this is definitely, we talked about incest was one of the first taboo, but I would say what's taboo in our society is incest, but then I'm pretty sure that this is a pretty big taboo in our society too. Sex with children. We don't accept this, and so I'll use the Michael Jackson case. So in this time period, it was seen as a good thing if somebody who was well established in the society, which would be like Michael Jackson, definitely well established, took an interest in your child. Because it was seen as they are teaching you about the world and they are also teaching you about sex. So the age that someone is sexually ready has changed greatly over history, and that's something to consider. Now, if you're under the age of 18, it can be considered statutory. I'm not sure what you guys think of that. We usually keep sex very much away from children, and we see sex as a form of abuse. But back in this time period, definitely if an older man was with a younger boy, or I would guess an older woman was with a younger girl, an older man with a younger girl, this would not have been a bad thing. This was actually, if the person had a lot of wealth, this is a great thing for your family, which is an interesting concept that, like, in our society, it's seen as, oh, the child is going to be ruined, or this is terrible for the mental health of the child. Whereas if you look at it back in those time periods, they believed that, oh, the child is going to get great self-esteem from this. That's very interesting, isn't it? Okay, so I forgot to tell you the story. In ancient Egypt about Isis and Osiris. And it was a love story, and you'll see that Christianity kind of pulled from that story, or may have been inspired by that story. And also, well, you'll see commonalities in that story, the Isis and Osiris, and stories in Christianity, and you'll also see commonalities in the Pandora's box. So I thought I'd tell you a couple stories here. So Isis and Osiris were very, very happy. They were a couple, and they were very much in love. However, Osiris had a jealous brother named Set. I'm summarizing this greatly here. And Set was very jealous of Osiris because he was the sun god, and Horus was the god of, like, darkness, or, you know, the underworld, something like that. And so Horus wanted to get rid of Osiris because he wanted his position, or just he didn't like his brother or something. So he built this beautiful sarcophagus, which is a coffin, you know, what you see with King Tut, those beautiful coffins that are like really ornate and things. And he had this big party, and he said, whoever fits in this sarcophagus perfectly will get it. And so everybody would get into it, and they would try it out. But he had it custom built for Osiris, so they kept telling Osiris to get in, and he said no, no, but finally they convinced him. He got in, and then Set slammed the top down of the sarcophagus, and they took him away, and supposedly they cut him into pieces, and they spread his body all over the land. Well, Isis was so distraught because she loved Osiris so much. You can't blame her, right? Her husband. So she goes with her sister Nepenthes, and they go and they pick up all the different body parts, and they put him back together. However, they couldn't find one body part. Can you guys guess what it is? Yeah, they couldn't find his penis. Interesting. So there's some legends that a big black fish swallowed it. There's some that, I don't know, different reasons where they couldn't find it. But in any case, she put him back together, and so she got him back, but he was missing his penis. And then they kept praying, and they had a god, they had a son named Horus, who was he symbolized by the eye, that he was supposedly going to go avenge his father's death, and knowing. And it's interesting that he was conceived of an immaculate conception, just like Jesus was. So anyway, that's just like a summary version. There's many different versions of that story, but I thought I would try to show you the parallels. Now, let me show you the parallels of Pandora's box along with the Eve story. So Pandora is this beautiful woman, and Zeus was mad at a certain Greek person, I can't remember his name, who he discovered fire, and he reigned in the power of fire, and Zeus was mad that they had that power now, and he was like, oh, I'm going to get him. So basically what he did was he sent Pandora down, and Pandora was this beautiful woman, and then they had a box, and they said, never, ever, ever to open this box. Well, Pandora was this woman that was sent down, and she could not stop her curiosity, and supposedly this guy that had built the fire he was with this woman, and this woman couldn't keep away from the curiosity in the Pandora's box, and she took the lid off, and supposedly the Pandora's box had all the evils that have befell humans, and so she was responsible for releasing all evil on humans. Now, some versions of the story says there was one thing left in the box after it was over, and that is hope. I don't see how hope would be an evil, but in any case. So Pandora's box. So where's the commonality? Why am I telling you this story? We're going to find out that Eve, God supposedly told Eve, don't eat, you can have everything in the whole garden, but don't take this apple. And sure enough, what did she go for? They went for the apple. And then when they went for the apple, that changed this whole Garden of Eden to all of the problems that have fell upon us. We'll touch on that a little bit more, but I just wanted to show you again that the problems with the world they were blamed on women throughout history, which is interesting. Maybe men just needed kind of a scapegoat, or maybe we just need to have a reason for why bad things happen. So here's another thing is, I think a lot of you have heard that prostitution is the oldest profession. I've seen other documentation that say, no, it's not the oldest profession. Actually, the oldest profession is a shaman, which is a person that is connected to God and has some mystical powers. However, prostitution has been around for a long time. Actually, prostitution is even found in the animal world, the bonobos. They are found when a male comes back with a big hunk of meat or a lot of food, then the female, who is not really his regular mate, will lay down, spread eagle, let him have sex with her, and then she will get a portion of the food. So that seems like prostitution to me. But what's interesting about prostitution here, why am I bringing this up? Why are we going over this? Is, first of all, I think the ancient Greeks were really interesting in that they said that everyone is bisexual. It was just expected that you were bisexual. And I don't know, are we moving towards that? I think it's much more okay to be bisexual now than ever, and maybe we're going to head towards that method again. But here's another thing, is prostitution. In our society, I think you're kind of frowned upon if you are a prostitute. Maybe the call girls, but even the call girls, you're still kind of that's not really what I would want my daughter to be. But here in this culture, you would definitely want your daughter to be a Hetairai, and I would have loved to be a Hetairai here, Hetari. Some people say Hetairai, some people say Hetari, because the women that were prostitutes were the only ones that could get educated. They were the only ones that were seen on a level with men where they could eat with the men. So if you were a prostitute during this time period, you were seen as a much higher rank than an ordinary woman. You were seen as, an elevated place in society. So again, why are we sharing this? Is we're sharing this because I want you to say to yourself, well, damn, who makes these rules? At certain time periods in life, it was better to be a prostitute. And when you think about it on a logical level, prostitutes, they just have to have sex with men. It's a relatively easy job, if they were given a lot of respect, as I'm a healer, I am sexually healing you. Why can't we see women like that as prostitutes? But we don't usually. They're looked down as negatively. And I'm asking you, why? Why do we have these different opinions? Okay, so here's a quote that I found. Mistresses we keep for our pleasure, concubines for daily attendance upon our persons, and wives to bear us legitimate children and be our faithful housekeepers. Damn, I want to be a man. I want to have all that. I want a mistress for pleasure. I want them to take care of me. I want them to take care of the children and clean my house. That sounds like the life. How much better could it get? Woohoo! Alright, so we talked about bisexuality, so I just want to reiterate, yes, male homosexuality was seen as the highest form of love. But female by homosexuality was also seen as a very acceptable thing, a very normal thing. There were so many beautiful dildos, which a dildo is a penis-shaped object that could be used for masturbation. However, we learned that most women do not insert something to masturbate, so that's interesting. But they did find lots and lots and lots of dildos from this time period.